Harry Potter books and movies have made J.K. Rowling a billionaire.
But for some fans, the magic is fading.
In a DVD featurette for the latest Potter spin-off, Fantastic Beasts, Rowling spoke about an intense gay relationship between two of the key characters. This was not in the books or in any of the movies. I'm Katie Underwood, freelance writer and editor.
I'm Ashani Nath, senior editor at Flair.com.
I'm Elamine Abdul Mahmoud. I'm an editor of BuzzFeed News. Rowling created these characters 20 years ago, and now she's trying to make sure that they stay relevant. But here's the thing, it's just not working.
Listen, I'm all for this supposed romance, and we definitely need more visibility for queer characters. But this feels like Rowling trying to play to certain audiences without actually doing the work.
But I wonder, would people be reacting this way if we were talking about a straight wizard couple? Probably not, which says more about our collective politics than Rowling's.
Okay, hello everyone. So here's the excerpt from J.K. Rowling's DVD commentary that the world has just seized upon. Have a listen.
Their relationship was incredibly intense, it was passionate, and it was a love relationship. I'm less interested in the sexual side, though I believe there is a sexual dimension to this relationship.
Okay, so a revelation from J.K. Rowling, but to be fair, I mean, it's not new that she thinks of Dumbledore as being gay, right? I mean, that came out more than a decade ago. So Ashani, let me start with you. What is the problem here that I think people are sort of critical of her here?
Yeah, so I mean, as you said, she's talked about this in 2007, I think, and mentioned that she always thought of Dumbledore as gay. But I think the issue here is she's revisiting it, and the problem for me, at least, is she hasn't followed that up with any action. So yes, we're not seeing that in the text. There's no evidence of a sexual or gay relationship between Dumbledore and Grindelwald. And she can't change the books now, but she has written all these movies, and there was ample opportunity to build that into the universe that she's still crafting. And it would have meant a lot more, I think, if she backed those words up with actual representation.
And do you go so far, and I'm curious for any of you, I mean, do any of you think that, because I've seen this criticism out there, that she's sort of making it up as she goes along, or do we at least concede that, no, this is actually how she conceived of Dumbledore, it's just trickling out?
I mean, look, the Harry Potter universe just will not die. It just keeps on expanding and expanding long after the books have, stopped coming out. And so it does feel at this point like it's a little bit opportunistic. Like the Pottermore stuff came out, and then after that, she added several books about the kind of plants that are in the Harry Potter universe. Yeah. Like, it's time to stop. So every time that something like this happens, it feels like it's an opportunity to get Harry Potter's universe back in the news because there are people like us who are willing to spend the money, and so, we're willing to talk about it again. And so, to me, it honestly just feels incredibly, cynical.
Okay, so you're not clearly giving her the benefit of the doubt on this one.
No, I'm sorry.
Katie, give me your sense what you think the core of the controversy is here.
Well, I think it's interesting because the soundbite that people have seized upon from the clip is the sexual dimension of the relationship.
Sure.
And a lot of people have said, is this gay baiting? Is this kind of, fetishizing gay people or gay relationships? And, as a queer person myself, that would have registered on my gaydar, first thing, I would have seized upon that myself. But to me, it just seems like the reaction of everyone is more interesting, and it just highlights how not used to having complex queer characters in pop culture we are. So very often you find them either non-existent or playing very one-dimensional, into very one-dimensional stereotypes,
right,
like the stylist or the best friend or the character that gets killed off in a horror movie in the first scene. So I don't find what she said opportunistic. I find it just highlights that we have so much further to go in terms of there being representation that's not so one note.
Right.
Did she need to do it at all, though? It just feels like it's so unnecessary at this point. What do you think?
Well, but I mean, if that's genuinely how she feels or how she conceived of Dumbledore, yeah, I mean, isn't that fair for her to...
But there was an opportunity, I think, to have a more complex queer character because the books had already come out. We had already had all of these movies, and she's still revealing more about Dumbledore, so there was that opportunity to have, I guess, his queerness written into his character in a way that wouldn't define him because we've already known him.
Right, but I'm trying to understand what you guys are saying, though. I mean, are you saying that either she can feel these things about her characters, but then she's really got to explicitly write the characters or write the movies as such, or else just keep quiet about it.
Certainly a nod, I think, would be helpful. She's written 2 of these movies, and no such nod exists in those. And like, nobody's talking about an explicit sort of scene that demonstrates any of this.
Sure.
We're just talking about like some kind of acknowledgement that it's a part of the plot development even. She's saying that this is quite like an intense relationship, an intense love relationship. I don't know where that is in the text. I just don't see it.
Well, I think she also talked about her wanting to have Harry and Hermione have gotten together, you know, and I feel like she's rewritten a bunch of things, but there are certain things that have more favorable reactions. And, you know, the cynical part of me wonders if it's the fact that this is a homosexual relationship that people are more scandalized by or reacting to in some visceral way. Because I think if she had said, you know, Harry and Hermione had sex, like, would we be having the same kind of blowback to it?
Right. I will say that the original revelation that Dumbledore was gay, I think went over quite well. But it was also the first of many additions to the world. So I think like maybe people's cynicism might have built up, but I don't know. I don't know if that's how you'll read it.
So I guess ultimately, I mean, can J.K. Rowling, as a writer, as an artist, I mean, does she have to go the whole 9 yards? I mean, or was there a sort of practical interest in deciding, you know what, I'm going to focus on the wizarding universe that I've created? Because if she writes those characters as gay, I mean, doesn't that, I mean, the media headlines would be all about, hey, here's a new book out, here's a new movie out, and Dumbledore is gay. I mean, in a way, does that not eclipse everything else, all the other aspects of the universe that she's tried to build?
Isn't that what she's already doing, though? Because the headlines are already there. The headline of Dumbledore is gay, like, happened in 2007 and is happening again. But the only difference is that she's not backing it up with the work. So she's saying these things, but we're not seeing it in the worlds that she's creating. And I think that's where the disconnect is.
Okay, I think we could talk a lot about the Harry Potter universe and the twists and turns.
Yes.
But this week, there was another bit of news that really captured our attention. So news that a Canadian YouTube superstar is charting completely new territory. Her name is Lilly Singh, a.k.a. Superwoman, and she's set to become the first non-white, non-male person to host a late-night talk show on U.S. network television. She's taking over Carson Daly's 1:30 a.m. slot on NBC, and here's a snippet of her appearance on Jimmy Fallon, where she announced the news.
You gonna have a desk?
I don't know. I'm trying to decide if I want a desk. I really don't know.
Do you want to try it out?
Okay. Thank you, my friend. Congrats on your success.
Hello, my friend. Congrats on your success.
Oh my God, this is
pretty... So she's not, you know, necessarily a familiar face to TV audiences, but A-listers like Will Smith, The Rock, Selena Gomez, Priyanka Chopra have all appeared on her YouTube channel. So she is a legit big deal. Ishani, I'll start with you again. I mean, the obvious and significant part of this story is that what a barrier-breaking move for diverse representation.
Oh, for sure. I mean, she is an Indo-Canadian, bisexual, 30-year-old woman. There are so many, every single part of that is breaking barriers in the late-night space especially. But I think what people are missing here is how this is actually going to change the format of late night, because she is a huge star on YouTube. She has already owned that space in a way. She has billions, with a B, billions of views and 14 million subscribers. Late night is slowly transitioning to being more YouTube friendly. So I think while she's new to the late night space, there's actually a lot that the late night hosts can learn from her, and she's going to kind of chop up that format a lot.
Right. And yeah, the business angle is super interesting about this, right? Which raises the question, who needs whom more, right? Does Lilly Singh need late night TV, or does late night TV need Lilly Singh?
I mean, it's certainly going to be a symbiotic relationship. She's going to benefit from having a company that's going to fund, you know, a writer's room and big sets for her to do the fun stuff that she does now on a very small budget. But no question, the people that benefit the most are those late night networks, because Lilly Singh is probably the biggest name in YouTube at the moment. And the fact that she's making this transition, she's not the first person to make that transition, but I think she's definitely the most significant. And in the past few years, we've seen so much of YouTube's homepage start to be dominated by just like little snippets of late night shows. James Corden's Carpool Karaoke comes to mind as like one of the most popular things, you know, out there.
They go massively viral, right?
And in fact, they're designed to do so.
Sure.
And so if they're thinking about their ratings and their viewership as like not just existing on whoever is watching at 1 in the morning, who are you? But also like the afterlife of those segments, then Lilly Singh is like the obvious move. You know, she will totally nail this.
And the ratings are the backdrop, right? I mean, if you think back to Johnny Carson days, I mean, I think on, you know, certainly on his last week on air, he was getting something like 19 million viewers on average. You know, nowadays it's lucky if a late post gets 3 million, right? It's completely plummeted. So is it going to work, this sort of synergy between Lilly Singh and YouTube, the online world, and late night TV?
I mean, I think it's a very strategic Hail Mary. I think that they need her as a Hail Mary at this point because, you know, numbers have shown that late night numbers are flagging, and unless you have a big news event or a very controversial president, for example, you know, it's very contingent upon something newsworthy happening because so many of them are politically based. So I think they're kind of into the wind at this point with what they can really do.
But are all of Lilly Singh's, you know, millions of fans, are they all going to say, okay, I guess I'm going to start watching TV now?
Of course.
I mean, is that...
They don't even need to,
gonna
though,
watch
because
her on
it'll
YouTube.
all show up on YouTube, right? And she's actually already said on her vlog she's going to take them along for the whole process, show them like how to create a writer's room and like all that learning. So she's building in kind of a pathway to her new audience on TV. So it's there. She's already there.
I think you know, network execs are probably hoping for an influx of more youthful viewers. I don't know if that will happen. I think they'll just stay on YouTube, and then, you know, in 5 years' time, we'll probably have to revisit what late night looks like again.
Well, there's a final thought to leave folks on. Thanks so much, guys. It's been fun.
Thanks.